Now, what they're doing is targeting Africa and trying to control the population using all of this. Now, why we call it cultural imperialism is that you're trying to change the culture of a people. And they're using the poverty of Africa. And it's a sad situation because Africa is the richest continent, but it's the poorest at the same time, because we're so rich in natural resource, but we've got so corrupt leadership that our corrupt leadership has left us so broke, we need to depend on the IMF and the World Bank and on hand-me-downs. And the system is so rigged to make us remain impoverished that unless you have radical thinking, you can't break out of the cycle of poverty. Because, for example, between Ghana, Nigeria, and Cote d'Ivoire, we produce 75% of the world's cocoa beans. Switzerland is the biggest producer of chocolate. They don't have one cocoa tree in Switzerland. Now, Ghana, Ivory Coast, and Nigeria are not allowed to trade our cocoa bean on the Ghanaian Stock Exchange or the Nigerian Stock Exchange or the Ivorian Stock Exchange. You can only trade Ghana's cocoa bean and cocoa powder on the London Stock Exchange and the New York Stock Exchange. Ask me why. To keep us poor. And Ghana is not allowed to trade the powder. We're only allowed to trade the bean. Now, let me just do the mathematics for you here. There are companies in America and Europe that buy the bean on the stock exchange and then trade the powder. Now, 1 ton of cocoa bean will give you 2.5 tons of cocoa powder. However, the cost of 1 ton, for example, if a ton of cocoa bean is going for $6,400 now on the London Stock Exchange, $6,400, a ton of cocoa powder is going for $25,000. So as a country, as a Black African country who own and farm the cocoa, we're only allowed to trade the bean at $6,400 per ton. They buy it, they mill it at a cost of about $4,000 per ton to mill it, brings it to about $10,400. But when they mill that $10,400, they get 2.5 tons, which they then sell at $25,000 per ton. So they buy at $6,400, spend $4,000 to mill, and make about over $50,000, about almost $62,500. So you keep Ghanaian farmers poor and keep European and American middle very rich. They've rigged the system. If you say you're not going to sell to them, they're gonna have sanctions against you. They're gonna come after you with all of that. It is sick that a country that doesn't have one cocoa tree, not Belgium, not Holland, not Switzerland, these are the 3 biggest producers of chocolate. And we sell the bean, and then we import chocolate from these countries. It just doesn't make sense. And so tell me if this is not economic slavery. If this is not, if you tell me that you're going to withdraw the aid that Ghana now needs from the IMF because of poor management and because of corruption, that we've entered into an IMF program, you say you're going to withdraw that if I don't accept sodomy and the sale of Ghanaian children's innocence. Tell me how that's not cultural imperialism. Because the same United States of America goes to Qatar and does business with Qatar. They trade with Qatar. They trade with Saudi Arabia. And in Saudi Arabia and Qatar, because they have the money, you respect their culture, you respect their laws, you respect their traditions. The American football national team went to play the World Cup in Qatar and respected the Qatari law. Qatar punishes homosexuality by death. In fact, Qatar spent $22 billion in building infrastructure for the World Cup. 18 billion out of the 22 billion went to American and European companies who were contractors who worked there. So they like the money of the guys who kill people for being gay because they get the money from there. Qatar buys $1 billion worth of military hardware every year from the American economy, and so they do business with them. Saudi Arabia is constantly buying F-16s from the U.S. defense contractors. So it's good business. They turn a blind eye to that. When Kamala Harris visits any of those countries, she covers her hair. She wears a hijab to cover her hair. She respects their culture. But then she comes to Ghana and thinks that she can talk down on us. I don't blame her. I blame my corrupt leaders.